I started Porchlight Counseling services. At the time I was volunteering as a chaplain at a local hospital emergency room. And I somehow realized that there's a whole lot of sexual assault that's going on in student settings. I realized that particularly for students, people in college are treated like adults. They think they're adults, but they don't have all the coping mechanisms of a 25-year-old or a 45-year-old. They're not there yet, although everyone is treating them as though they are. And if they have had an unexpected blow and can't admit it to anyone, then they can't heal from it or get any kind of help from it.
I didn't sleep for like 2 months. I was lucky if I fell asleep for an hour. I couldn't really feel, like I didn't cry, I didn't really get angry, I couldn't really do anything. It was kind of like walking around and the person I wasn't there anymore. I kind of didn't feel like anyone was there.
The raw statistics are very surprising for most people. Of every 3 women, 1 will be raped in her lifetime. Of every 6 men, 1 will be raped in his lifetime.
I've always prided myself on being a strong, opinionated, smart woman, and I really claimed those things as part of my identity. And that night, my no didn't matter, my silence didn't matter, my fight didn't matter, and I was left voiceless, and I was left without all of the things that I had used to define myself. 1
in 4 women will experience sexual assault or attempted sexual assault at some point in their undergraduate career.
There was so long that I refused to talk about it to anyone. My parents would bring it up, I'd be like, I don't want to talk about it. For years, I didn't want to talk about it. It's hard to explain the whole blame thing. It's just like, I don't know, like I felt, again, like I was the only one and that this doesn't happen to anybody else. And if it only happens to me, then I must have done something wrong.
Most students who don't seek counseling either end up flunking out or dropping out. Many, many times they never are able to complete even their undergraduate education. It's like a plank that's not nailed down, and it's going to keep coming up and derailing a person. That's why the counseling is so critical. And the sooner the better. That's what anyone who's done any work in the field of sexual assault will say. The sooner a person can get to be with people who are very well versed in the experience and understanding and professionally trained, the more complete their healing can be, because it's a rupture in their entire life. Forever. It never goes away. Even if they never tell anyone, it never goes away. And then you have our culture saying, well, what did you do to deserve that? Nothing.
Some of the ways that I've seen survivors of assault can manifest their pain, I think it tends to be a different process for a lot of people. That what it becomes is of how to cope with something that traumatic. And I think everybody chooses different ways of coping. Some of those ways of coping are really injurious, and they're even more traumatizing, such as sometimes people will start to self-injure or they'll cut themselves. And that has a lot to do, I think, with feeling that their bodies betrayed them. Some of the ways that I see that people manifest their pain, the way they cope with the pain, is through eating disorders. And when you're doing things like you're cutting or you're using substances, you're taking yourself out of your reality. And so you never feel like you've healed in a grounded way.
If you've lost yourself, it's that too. It's always with you. And what we want to do at Porchlight Counseling Services is help this young person, whether it's a male or a female, come to terms with the self that they've become after this unwanted rupture in their life. And they have to re-knit themselves almost. And that's what we do from the first phone call to hopefully when they leave us, they'll always know that we're there for them, we're there for anyone that they know.
It's never over, but the counseling helps you get to different levels so that what Porchlight does for women who have been attacked and everybody needs that extended counseling, whether they think they do or not. So the funds that are raised to go ahead and allow these women to continue to have someone to talk to, they need to have somebody they can turn to, and to say that, okay, your sessions are done, whatever the state allows, is really a fallacy.
Another thing that's very confusing for people about student sexual assault, 89 to 94% of the time, the female survivor knows the perpetrator.
The man who assaulted me was a classmate. I later found out that I wasn't the first person that he had assaulted on our campus even. I couldn't move my arms. I couldn't do anything he kind of was asking me to do. I think he had to know that what he was doing was wrong. It's not sex when the other person can't participate at all.
Sexual assault itself is it's a tool. It's not about sex, it's not about intimacy, and it's not about the other person. It is an act of domination and control.
Most of the assaults occur through an acquaintance. And so counseling, my belief, really becomes about facilitating a voluntary, collaborative, safe, and trusting relationship, which takes a long time. So it really takes that commitment.
First meeting was actually, I was so nervous. Like, on the way up there, I was so nervous. So in the beginning, it was hard, and I was very closed off and just didn't want to say anything, didn't want to give any information.
There's a lot of reasons why people struggle to come forward and talk about what they've experienced. I think there's a lot of barriers. Some of those barriers are societal. There's a big stigma still around sexual assault, who gets assaulted, what assault looks like. So there's a lot of fears for survivors that if they were going to go to a helping professional, that their story will be heard and accepted and embraced. For some people, if they've been assaulted, sometimes the first person they told has not believed them, or they have had a really negative response to what they've experienced. Maybe they were led to believe that it was their fault. And so the idea of going to another person to tell them their story, what they went through, is terrifying.
I felt like I didn't need it because I felt like I was strong enough without it, and that, it's fine, and I'm a strong young woman, I can do it, I don't need anybody to help me, and I've got that in me. I'm just like an independent, I don't need help from anybody, like kind of stubborn. But after a while you just realize that, sometimes you need a little bit of a wake-up call, a little bit of a push.
Another one of the barriers, I think, for survivors to come in and to start talking about their assault is that they feel like they're tough, and that that's somehow a sign of weakness, to come in and start to talk about, what they've experienced, or they're just, I'm so tough I can kind of go on with life.
Counseling isn't about being weak. I think getting help in the form of counseling after surviving an assault is the bravest and the strongest thing you can do. I realized that I had to talk about it, and it's hard for people who love you to hear details and to really hold you with that. And I needed somebody who I knew would say the right things and who I didn't have to worry what they were feeling or thinking.
I've seen many changes, tremendous changes for my daughter since the beginning of the counseling. She could say so many things to the counselor that she did not feel comfortable saying to me or anybody in the family. And even if she did go ahead and express these worries and concerns, there was no way that I could go ahead and help her get over it.
Therapy was the best place to just go and have someone where I wasn't the first rape survivor they'd met, where they could handle anything that I said and challenge me in my thinking and challenge me in finding fault in myself, and someone who just knew what they were doing, and I couldn't find that anywhere else.
Counseling gives you the coping skills to go ahead and take that next step, to enter places that you would never enter, to be a risk taker, because that's what life is, and that's the joy in life. You don't live in a box. You have to take those next steps.
From here, I think I just want to keep on going, you know, like just keep learning and taking everything in stride, and I want to be as independent and as strong as I am, but I want to keep that, you know, like I don't want to fall back into that place that I was in. So I think it's important to remember that and to keep going.
Counseling has just really been a way to make myself whole again, that I don't have to fraction myself off, that I don't have to be the person before and the person after. I've really learned how to merge the two and let that be my new path.
It's when we saw her smile again, when we saw her being able to joke again, when we saw her get in the car and drive again. We knew that those were successes caused by the counseling. The counseling saved her life. The counseling saved her life.
There's so many ways to support Porchlight Counseling. We wouldn't be where we are today without tens and 20s of people who volunteer for us, who have heard about us somewhere and come and say, I had this experience, or someone I know had this experience. What can I do to help? I've often said to people, if you don't think you can afford to help us out, just don't go to Starbucks one day and send us $3 or $5. It could mean a great deal to a survivor, and it can mean a great deal to our organization. There is spreading the word about our services. There are over 50 colleges and universities in the greater Chicagoland area. We don't have the person power to get to all of them, but we want to, and we will. The first thing around sexual assault is awareness, and then after awareness comes a level of understanding where you will be. People are motivated to want to do something and to help. And don't forget about giving up that Starbucks for a day. We'd love to have your $4.